You're listening to WLPNLP Chicago, 105.5 FM, Lumpin' Radio, Bridgeport. It's August 31st, 2017. You're listening to the Beer Devil Insiders Roundtable. Confused.
Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again. Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again. Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again.
Thing. Oh, all right, there we are. Fading up with the song in and then cutting out right as I decide to talk. That's fine. We'll get through it. I forgive all. Hello and welcome everyone to the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. I am your host, Chris Quinn, and I'm coming to you as always from Studio B here in Bridgeport, Chicago. Thanks as always to Lumpin' Radio and its fearless leader, Logan Bay, and also producer Jamie for setting us up with a special celebrity producer, Mr. Matt Arata. So thank you. I won't get into it because I'm a forgiving guy and I'm okay. I'm not angry at all. I'm not off to a terrible start, so we're just going to keep going. I want to thank everyone out there who is listening on 105.5 FM over the airwaves. Thank you all for tuning in. If you're tuning in via a app like TuneIn Radio or the Lumpin' Radio app, which is actually a very great app, thank you as well. If you're listening live, you should hop into the chat room and make fun of me. I'm sure they're already well on their way, considering the start we've got. tlk.io/WLPN is where you can join in on the fun there and talk about what we're talking about and, chime in. And sometimes what you say is, reflected on the show. We kind of we try to include the chat room whenever possible. Not when they're trolling me, though, which is why we don't do it too often, because that's mostly what they do, but that's okay. For those of you who are listening via, a podcast, such as at iTunes, thank you as well. Thanks for downloading and listening to us. And for those of you listening to the first time, let me tell you a little bit about what the show is all about. It's something I kind of like to start out every show with, and I just say that the goal of this show, the Insiders Roundtable, is to open up a window into how the people making, selling, marketing, and facilitating the beer getting into your glass feel about the topics that are a part of their everyday lives. Many of my greatest beer experiences have been talking about beer while sharing beer with people whose opinions I respect and admire, and it's these experiences that I hope to capture with the Insiders Roundtable, and I'm going to be introducing my guests momentarily, but before I do, I should mention that all of my guests who I am about to introduce have opinions, and those opinions are their own and no one else's, certainly not Lumpin' Radio's or the Beer Temple. So don't try to say that they are the opinions of Lumpin' Radio or the Beer Temple, because they're not, because I just told you they're not. So let's get to it. We're going to go in order of seniority. I think Senior Beastek is probably the most senior member. So people probably don't know that's your OG name. They just know you as Dusty.
Or what up? It's your boy Eric. I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
Yeah. What's up?
Yeah. Hi.
Eric Capron of
Hi.
Half Acre Brewing Company. What's
Yeah.
up, dude?
How you doing?
Doing well. What's new with you?
Well, we just had a party at our new production facility.
Well, what's up with you? Right, you got some new stuff going on.
Well,
right?
I mean that consumed like a month of my life, so I'm just kind of coming out of the fog from that right now.
Because you've got a new role, right?
Yeah, so I'm moving into. I'll be doing like more event management and
Just keep feeding it to you. You'll eventually get what I'm
right.
trying
Yeah,
to get.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm slowly transitioning out of the sales part of the brewery and working more internally for doing events and stuff like that. So
Cool. And you had the Big North, your big yearly party at Half Acre.
yeah, the second annual. It was the sort of sneak preview of our tap room at our new space up at the Balmoral/Bowmanville production facility. So it went off really well. I think it was successful. And yeah, just kind of, like I said, I was just coming out of the fog from that right now.
So it was an awesome time. Thank you for inviting me. And I've said before on the show that, there's a lot of like breweries that put on like beer events and stuff like that, but you guys tend to throw a party. Is kind of how I feel.
Don't tell the neighbors that, but yeah, I don't know.
Right.
That's kind of our aim. I don't know if any of them are listening right now, but
Yeah, probably not. Let's be real. Well, FedEx Greg maybe, but
Yeah.
he doesn't care.
Hey, Greg.
But yeah, you guys throw a party. So like, what were some of the more party elements that you guys had at Big North this year?
We had live tattooing. We had
For
some
$25
$25. You could get a tattoo
on the brew deck.
On the brew deck. Which
Sounds
is
like
kind of neat.
smart for
Right.
people who were a couple people were getting. I talked to a couple people who were getting their first tattoo.
Right.
They were a few in at the time. I'm
Yeah.
not saying that had a
They signed waivers.
right. Did they really?
Oh yeah.
OSHA was hyped.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we did that. We bought some like noodle guys / sky dancers that we had
What?
on the roof.
Oh,
so like the
right.
wavy
The,
dancing guys.
The car wash thing.
Right. So Half
Yeah.
Acre now owns 2 of those.
Oh, you didn't rent them. You bought them.
We bought them. Yeah. It's a point of pride. I think that
You're gonna be. Are they gonna be up there all the time now?
we'll see. Yeah. I mean, so
Are they
it's
up there right now?
No, but they're not far from there. So,
Okay.
We're 10 years in as a company. It took us 10 years to get our first air dancer, sky dancer, whatever you want to call them. But I don't think it'll take 10 years for us to get any more. So, I don't know. Yeah, we had some good bands play. We had a bunch of beer that was making its debut. First time like I said, the public saw the tap room. Yeah, it was great. It was a lot of fun to clean up the next day too. So.
Oh, boo-hoo.
No, it was fun. It was a really good time. I think it went really well. So
Awesome. Very cool. Thanks for coming on.
yeah.
I think my next most senior guest is a virtual guest. I think you're the next most senior, Mr. Naughty.
Wow, really moving up in the world.
I think you are. I don't know. How many times have you been on, would you guess? 5, 6?
I was at 6,
7?
maybe
Okay.
7 as an outlier.
I think that's more than you, Pat. Yeah.
What, like 4-ish?
Yeah.
Did I hear a 5er?
Yeah. So Jason Naughty of Market Watch and I guess and other areas, you can see him expressing his opinions about beer. What's new with you, man?
I'm jumping on with All About Beer this year.
Congratulations.
They extended me an invitation to do a business column, and very happy to do it. Really enjoyed Daniel Hardis's work, and I guess they have an announcement coming up soon. Stay tuned. I don't really know what's going on there, but they have 2 of my columns, so hopefully, things are well.
So you've done now. You've done the beer column for Market Watch, and you've done the business column for All About Beer. Maybe just a suggestion. Maybe do a business column for Market Watch and a beer column, or would that just be 2? That's not you. You gotta flip the script on people, I guess.
Well, you're catching me on a good day for this because as of tomorrow, I won't even be doing the beer column for Market Watch.
Oh,
That is
okay.
over.
Okay. So you're just you are all about beer except business, except business, which you will be writing about for All About Beer. Forgive me, I'm a little loopy. It's been a long week. Well, that's great. I mean, that's good news. When does your column with All About Beer start?
That's a very good question. It's been pushed back a couple of weeks already. From what I can tell, September issue. I also don't know the release schedule. I really should find out anything about this publication. So
It's probably my favorite beer magazine, has been for a long time. So you got that going for you.
Oh,
Been around
I
forever.
absolutely love it. I mean, I know Brian Roth has written for it, and Jeff Allworth out here in Portland. It's a lot of great writers whose work I enjoy, and it's just a great beer publication. But I just need to figure out when it runs and stop stealing it from bars.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully you get a free subscription out of that. That's part of your contract.
At least digital. You would think.
Yeah, digital. You get access to all of the free online content. Well, that's great, man. Thanks for coming on. And, good luck with the new thing. Good luck with finding out when this thing is published and probably, when your deadlines are as a result of that and all that good stuff. My next guest is the only, at least the only American master crusherone so far.
I'll wear it proudly.
Yeah, Mr. Pat Fahey of the
Pat.
Don't make fun of my accent. Of the Cicerone certification program. He also happens to be a master Cicerone, but who isn't these days? I mean, let's be real.
Wow.
Yeah. How are you, Pat? What's new with you, dude?
Not too much. I'm hanging out. I've been in Chicago for like a week and a half, so that's been good. Doesn't happen very often.
Basically, you have residency here.
Almost.
Yeah.
I almost feel like I live at my home now.
So last time that you were here, you had been all over Europe and you had been like all over the place in Europe, but you had been to, I think, Spain and Italy. And
I haven't been to either of those places in 8 or 9 years, but
Well,
you're
where
pretty
had you
close.
Been? Where had you been? Where had you been? And then you were in like Estonia.
I was in
or
Estonia.
Georgia. Yeah.
No, I was in Estonia. You're right there.
You hadn't been in England before that? And
No,
then
I was. I was in London, and then I was in Estonia, and then I was in Scotland,
Scotland. Okay.
which is like Spain.
Yeah.
In
Where have you been this time?
I've just been bouncing around the U.S. since then, for the most part. Like recently, one of the things we've been working on doing is getting more trainers up in a number of places. So I've been watching trainers in San Francisco, in Denver, and in Seattle. So.
And what do you? Yeah. When you travel, what do you? What are you doing?
It depends. Sometimes it's advanced Cicerone exams. Sometimes it is, like, for those trips, it's been auditing some of our new trainers, and then a lot of conferences.
So what is you have trainers around the country?
We're starting to work on getting some of our classes taught in several different locations. Some of our more basic classes, like we have our Beer Savvy Boot Camp, that's a 4-hour class focused at first level and like an off-flavor course. And just to sort of spread our reach and make it easier for us to give live classes in more places, we've started to take on people who have are either certified Cicerones or advanced Cicerones or master Cicerones to do training. So
Very cool.
So that I don't have to go to as many places, basically.
Right. Well, very cool. Thanks for finding time to be here.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Mm-hmm. And so we were supposed to have. Well, I know we're going to talk about the guests we have here. We have
supposed to have.
Yeah. So we have another guest, but as you may or may not know, first-time guests introduce themselves. So if you could do the honors, please.
Hello, I am Nick Nuns. I am the founder of True Brewing in Denver, Colorado.
Oh, nice.
There you go. How are you?
Jason didn't even know.
Yeah.
Oh, pleasant
I
surprise.
had no idea.
He can't see. Yeah.
I am great. It's great to be here. Yeah, good to be in
Awesome.
Chicago. I haven't been here since 2010, 2011, something
And
like
what brings you here?
that. We are, am I allowed to break the news?
Please.
Can I do that? We are brewing a beer with Half Acre tomorrow,
Oh, sweet.
which I'm really excited to do.
What
It's a
kind
huge
of
honor.
What kind of beers?
We are
Beer.
making a mixed culture beer on some blackberries, I believe, is the plan.
Nice.
So,
Very cool.
yeah, it's going to be real fun.
And could you talk a little bit about what True Brewing is?
Sure. We're a 5-year-old brewery in Denver. We've been doing a lot of mixed culture beer lately. We started off with a very small 3-barrel system, kind of a pub style, just taproom only deal. And then about 3 years ago, we opened up our Acid Temple, which is our home for all of our mixed culture fermentation beer. So we've been doing a lot of a large variety of different types of mixed culture beers there, whether it be stainless fermentation or, oak fermentation. We have a couple of fooders, we have barrels, we have pretty much everything. We've fermented in so many stupid different types of fermentation vessels over there, and yeah, we're just kind of playing around with a bunch of different types of beers.
Have you used or worked with those crazy like ceramic eggs that
No, oh.
Tired Hands has?
I tasted beer out of that
Yeah.
exact egg,
Yeah.
and it tasted like blood.
Oh,
It was one of the worst things I've ever tasted in my life. It was pretty bad. And I talked to Gene about that for a while, and he was just like, man, I cannot wrap my head around what to do with this thing
it's
for the
big.
life of me.
It looks like one of those like green egg smokers, but like giant. Like I don't know how many barrels that thing fits, but it's big.
Yeah, it's apparently been a struggle for him.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
Have you experimented with any of the Citra hops by chance?
I've heard of those.
Okay.
I would love to use them in a beer sometime.
I hear they
Someday
go-
I think we'll be lucky enough to.
I hear they're really, really good in
Yeah.
American pale ales.
They're pretty
made
hot.
in the Midwest.
They're pretty hot
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah, they're a big deal in some circles. I'll
Hot
just say
take from
that.
Dusty over there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
big fan.
He's actually. Are you Dusty or Buster?
Who knows?
Right.
I'm ISO. That's all you need to know.
Speaking of which, your brother, your Dust brother, was scheduled to be on. I got a
Hollywood Hulk Shalau.
yeah. Hollywood Mike Strong is couldn't make it. Let me know. I think yesterday or 2 days ago, because he has to be flown out to New York City by LP and Killer Mike of Run the Jewels to go party with them this weekend. So
Sounds like a drag.
yeah, he couldn't make it. He's like, I'm really sorry, but I've got these, hip hop stars who need to party with me, and they want to fly me out. I told him no, and that, the gloves are off, so to speak. They had been off for a while, but like that was behind behind
Yeah.
the scenes. But
Yeah, I'm proud of him. But the good news is he's in New York, right?
yeah,
And they've got all the Nipas out there, so he's going to be
haze
like
for
just
days.
swimming in haze,
So much
and
haze.
Hopefully he's going to bring me back some really good cans. I'm assuming he will, because he's a close personal friend of mine. So
I know
at least
you're
for now.
ISO Dust. but
Right.
Are you ISO Haze too?
Yeah, I'm trading
What is-
haze for dust.
What is the exchange rate?
Yeah, what
on
is the
Haze for Dust?
exchange rate?
Oh, it's
haze?
not good these days.
No,
No.
like you have to trade. It's not 1-to-1, so you have to give more dust than you get in haze.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Haze is at a premium these
Yes,
days.
you get one hazy for a 6-pack of dust. which
Holy-
I'm happy.
I don't get that though. That makes no sense because
just the
everybody is
market,
making
Chris.
haze.
There's a lot
It's
more-
just the market.
But there's a lot of hops and hazies.
The market is broken because everybody makes a haze, but there's only one dust.
The market dictates what
It
the
does.
market will. So
It's a ISO market right now.
It's a ISO's market. Well, I do have to say, in all honesty, that so I don't think we talked about it on the show before, but two frequent guests of the show, Kate Brankin and Mike Strong Mike, Hollywood Strong Mike, did put on a pop-up for Pipeworks that was like a co-branding, co-promotional thing with Run the Jewels. during Lollapalooza, and it was pretty amazing. Did anyone here make it other than myself? Okay,
No, I was not there.
You didn't make it to your friend's thing? Okay, cool.
I was very
cool,
busy.
Cool. Yeah, me too. I was too. I was getting ready to open a bar, but I made it. It was amazing. So congrats to them. Super cool, and I'm very happy that actually both of them are going to be going out there and doing that. So I thought that was really neat. So why don't we start out with beers that have been, I don't know, just beers that we've been excited about or excited to try or that whole thing. We try to do that every week. Do you want to go first, Eric, or who wants to go first? Why don't you, Eric? No, you don't? No?
I've just been drinking rosé with my wife, so that's not really a beer.
It's the best. It's the best beer.
I know. Yeah, it's like summer water. It's like the best. Yeah, I don't know. I have not been drinking a lot of beer, if I'm being honest.
Really?
Yeah, honestly, because I'm ISO. I can't find any dust, and why settle for second?
Yeah. Okay. That's cool. How about you, Jason? Anything?
I just picked basically all my binds of Cascade here. I have like 5 pounds of Cascade, so I'm waiting. I'm really looking forward to the beer I make with that, and our fresh hop beer out here. It is the best time of year to be out here when
You
all
are in,
the
like,
breweries go
red hop.
rushing around and picking up hops and basically running people off the road to make like fresh hop beers. It's wonderful.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, and I know some of them. You guys are so close out in Portland, so close to some of these really big hop fields that I've heard. I don't know if it's true that like some people have like even their brew schedule timed, so like they start it when they're maybe at the farm, so they're ready for their additions as the hops are coming in, and it's like as little time as possible from being picked to getting plopped into the beer, which is pretty awesome.
There are brewers out here who've been doing it for decades. The McMenamin's chain of pubs, they have a fleet of vehicles that they dedicate to it. They have their folks, like you said, just have it timed down to the second, and they've been doing this for about 30 years now. So it's kind of interesting to see them work, and if you're out on the street during one of their brew days, you get to see like their dump trucks full of hops just kind of like pull up to their brewing facilities. It's wonderful.
That's cool, and it also in an age of seasonal creep, it's the one true seasonal left, because when the crop is ready, you pick it, and that's when the wet hop beers are going to come out. You can't schedule it to kind of fit into your plan or your calendar or whatever. I think that's cool. I mean, I would prefer if more seasonals were like that.
Yeah, there's no July fresh hop. It's kind of, you have to catch it when you can.
Yeah, unless you are Sierra Nevada, and then you can do the southern hemisphere wet hops or fresh hops or whatever,
Or pull the essential oils out or whatever you're doing.
Yeah, well, that's pretty cool. I like that Hop Hunter beer. How about you, Pat?
What have I been drinking? Well, so we were just up at the Beer Temple Bar, the new Beer Temple Bar. Very exciting.
Highly anticipated, I hear.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
You're right. I read it. You're right.
I heard people saying bad things, but I went there and it's pretty cool, so I don't know what they were talking about.
Isn't it on a list?
Might be.
I think it's on a list, right?
Maybe. I don't know.
Listicle.
Probably not.
Yeah.
So we were up there beforehand, and they had a couple Oxbow beers on, Oxbow of Maine, just in Chicago as of, like a week now?
Yep.
But they've been a favorite of mine for a very long time. You guys had up at the bar Bowie on, which is their like lightly smoked farmhouse-esque thing.
Belgian pale kind of
thing.
Yeah.
It's
Bowie.
Yeah,
we like
it's
to call
Bowie. It is delicious. It is phenomenal. So I crushed at least one of those before coming down here.
Well, I mean,
It's what I do. I'm sorry.
yeah, that's what you do.
Don't apologize for who you are.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I was really hoping you were going to bail me out and say that you've been drinking rosé too, but it's
You know what?
No, it's cool. I got your back.
it's fine.
In all honesty, like I had to like think about what beers I've been drinking recently, because when I'm at like home and out and about, it's a lot of wine and cocktails outside of work stuff.
Right.
If I had known that I could just say, I've been drinking rosé because
Oh yeah, people do that.
because
sort of
rosé. I'd be set for like weeks.
So, do you make cocktails at home?
When I'm at home,
Yeah, you do?
sometimes,
Wow.
occasionally.
Okay.
More so if there are like I don't like sit there and like it's
Muddle
kind of
your
like
own
making a
herbs.
really elaborate meal for yourself is like can be fun once in a while, but I don't do like really elaborate stuff for myself that often.
You
But
only want to do it to impress other people, not because you enjoy the flavor yourself.
I really only
Do anything to
Yeah.
impress people.
I don't want to say I'm a poser, but like
You don't have to say it.
master poserone.
Exactly. Nick, how about you?
I'll back up Eric with. Actually, can I answer twice?
Yeah.
My first answer would be we were just out in San Diego for Modern Times Festival of Dankness, which was awesome.
Very cool.
We had an event at a bar called Kindred, which is a vegan doom metal bar, which is incredible. It was one of the coolest experiences I've had. Very like-minded approach to our tap room and everything. I had a Bat Country cooler, which was a tiki drink with Jägermeister and charcoal in it, and it was really weird and great.
Did you drink it out of their Eternal Vacation tiki mug?
They they had the swizzle stick for it, actually.
What is it? So wait, you know of this?
I was out in San Diego a couple months ago, and that place is so
It's
amazing.
so great.
If you're in San Diego listening to this and you haven't been to Kindred, you're blowing it.
Yeah, it was incredible. The owner was so nice to us, just wonderfully hospitable. The drinks were great. The food was great. Everything
Awesome.
about it was amazing. So
That's super
yeah,
cool.
we had a couple of beers on tap. That was really cool.
And number two?
Number two is just it's always good to get Daisy Cutter again.
Yeah.
Just because we can't get it, and that's always been a wonderful beer for me. It's
Yep.
a soft spot, or I have a soft spot for it in my heart.
It's funny, a lot of people who leave Chicago, I found when they come back, it's not the dust they're fiending for. It's the Daisy Cutter, Mr. Capron.
It's a perfect beer.
Here's $5 for each of you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
For me, it's funny. Mr. Errata has already gone into full producer mode with a stern head shake no to Eric, as he was obviously joking, like it would only cost $5. But for me, it's this sounds like a little bit of self promotion, but and I guess it kind of is. And did I do fresh Sierra Nevada last week? I might have, but I'm going to say it again because that beer is really, really good. And I found myself, like the other day, I found myself at home saying I want a beer, looking at what I had in the fridge, being like, man, I just want to have more Sierra Nevada. And yeah, it's very good beer.
They paying you in hats, Chris?
They're paying me in hats. I'm wearing a Sierra Nevada hat. That's true. The other beer that I'm
Something of value.
yes, something of value that can't. I think they can give you. Can't like breweries give you stuff? I was not given this first of all by Sierra Nevada. Let's just be very clear. But
Asking for a friend.
No, this is I have not been given anything from Sierra Nevada. I know for things that you have to use to. So, all right. So, when I'm opening a bar, people are like offering me things, and I'm like, what is legit? What isn't legit? Obviously, no matter what, I take it always. But no, but the reality is that's not the reality. The reality is, so I think it's like you can't be given things, at least in Illinois, that like help with the service of the beer. Is that right, Eric? You would probably know this better than
I know this way
any.
too well.
So could you break that down?
It's so complicated and convoluted. So you cannot give away coasters. You cannot give away glassware to the bar.
Right,
you
because
can't-
it's
you can't-
for use. It helps. It
Well,
aids in
it's like
service,
a
right?
dual purpose. It's like a dual usage thing. So you can give away a neon, but you can't give away a clock. With like a brewery can't give away a clock because it's a neon and it like serves the purpose of telling the time.
Oh,
So like wearables as they call them, like T-shirts and hats, you can't give away any clothing.
really?
To the bar, you can't give away glassware.
People have been giving me shirts and stuff for
Yeah.
at the bottle shop for years. I
according-
will say, you have never given me. This is true. A darn thing in terms of
Law
merch.
abiding.
right.
Is that true? I don't think you ever have.
No.
You haven't.
Why would I? It'd break the law.
Right. That's right.
How much Half Acre is on at the temple right now?
0.
None.
I have a neon, but no beer.
We do have a neon, which I bought, was not even given,
Very
even though
true.
legally I could have been given it. Thank
Yeah.
you for that. 2, I do have a whole bunch of coasters, which I don't think I got an invoice for. So if anyone wants to come,
Why would you say that on the...
I do have.
I didn't give you those, though.
You didn't give me them. Eric did not give me those. It is 8:30, and I'm getting berated silently, but persistently to tell you that you are listening to WLPN LP Chicago 105.5 FM, Lumpin Radio, Bridgeport, Chicago. I have to get to my second beer. I'm sitting here with my guests, Pat Fahey, Nick Nuns, Eric Capron, and Jason Noddy. Now, this is a beer that I really am excited to try. One of my favorite beer Green Flash has ever put out was Rayon Vert. They stopped making it, and I think they found a batch of it or just decided to distro another batch because we have some from 2012. Curious how it held up. It smells very, very bready, so I'm very interested to try this beer. I mean, it was sad to see it go. I think they had some carbonation issues, so they couldn't do it in 4-packs. But fresh, this beer was pretty amazing. And it aged fairly well, too, so I'll have to see. So I'm excited about that. Is there anything else anybody else wants to talk about before we go to underwriting for a little bit? Are you ready for that, Mr. Arata? Did you want to say anything, or any beers you've been drinking lately? No, he doesn't want to talk. Okay, well, then...
Very producer.
Yeah, in that case, we will be back shortly with more of the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. Welcome back to the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. I'm your host, Chris Quinn. I am joined by my guests, Jason Noddy, Eric Capron, Nick Nuns, and Pat Fahey, a.k.a. Master Poserone, I think he said he was. I prefer Crusherone. Let's be real.
How many nicknames can I pick up here? That's the real question.
I think we're just going to stick with one, Master Crusherone.
I'll take it.
Yeah, that's what you are. It's what you do.
It could be far worse.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, you should get that on a business card.
Master Crusherone.
Podcast guest, Master Crusherone.
What makes you think I don't have that business card already?
That's very true. I apologize.
So,
But can you make it one of those shotgunator things instead?
Now we're talking.
Playing
with fire now.
I don't know what that is, but I will say
You
a
don't
little
party.
follow-up to my beers that I was excited about. I'm no longer excited about Rayon Vert. It's not very good. It's not very good. I was hoping it was good, too, because I bought a bunch of it, and we were hoping it was going to be just killer. You know, expectations were high. We thought, hey, they're sending it to distro. It's got to be drinkable still.
The question is, did the distributor find it and decide to start selling it, or did the brewery send it here and decide to start selling it?
That's a great question.
It could be either, because I remember hearing that Chicago was like an oddly huge market for Rayon when it was around, and that, you know, it didn't really do so hot anywhere, but it was like their number one SKU here in Chicago, and that people were just like asking for it when it was going away. Like, when are we going to get it? When are we going to get it?
Sure.
So it could potentially have been that. There were some people who picked it up like, oh man, this is great. This is awesome. They're making this again. And then they notice that it has the old branding on it and everything like that. And they're like, wait, this is the old Rayon?
When I heard that it was like going to stop, like be discontinued, I guess I should say, I bought like a case of it and like stored it in my fridge and drank it slowly. It's one of the only like American Brett beers that I'm really all that into. So I hope they bring it back.
I loved this beer like 3 years ago.
Right.
Yes.
At this point, it's 5 years old.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, apparently they did kind of bring it back. That's what people were saying. They changed it to like Sauvage something, but it didn't quite taste the same. Because when this beer first came out, it was pretty darn hoppy. I remember it was like a bready, hoppy
Right.
kind of mashup thing, but it was good. Let's move on to our first story, our first topic. I thought this would be an interesting one for maybe Jason and Eric, or anyone to weigh in on. There was
Just whatever.
Yeah,
for
we'll-
anyone,
we'll
or
say
Anyone
anyone,
owns a
This one.
brewery, just keep quiet, please.
anyone. So it was a question that was phrased that it was a headline to a article that was phrased as a question, which is, why are so many breweries selling their beer in 15 packs? We've kind of gone over this before, and I think it was even in our year-end show. It was something that I believe Doug Valicki or others were talking about. We were going to see more, which is these kind of multi-packs. So
Why was he saying that?
why was Doug
Yeah.
saying it? I think he thought it was just another. Well, I don't want to speak for him. I think what I believe at the time was that there's another door in the cooler that doesn't have a lot of craft influence on it. Craft has been there for a while, but it had been those usually like big clunky bottle variety packs that are really heavy, and it's not that kind of suitcase format, whatever you want to call it. And now that everybody's canning, you can just kind of pick them up really easily, and you can kind of start going after that market a little bit more, perhaps. And I think so. That's what what do you think?
I mean, didn't they put out 12 packs and 18 packs this year?
Oh, them?
Yeah, Revolution.
Oh, yeah. I mean, obviously they agree. Yeah, they have Cross of Gold, and they've
Right.
got which just came out as an 18 pack or something like that. And then they had before that Fist City, and was it their pills maybe that they were doing?
No, it's the variety pack for their Hero series.
That's right. The League of Heroes. That's right. It was their hoppy beer hero thing, which has been doing better than they ever had imagined it would be. So, why do you think that people are doing it? Is kind of what I was asking.
I think it's so you can sell more beer to more people.
Oh, come on.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's
Okay, so why do people think? Yeah. All right. Next story. All right. Okay then. So is that all?
Is that the end of that one?
I guess. I mean,
no, it's not. It's not the end of it. But I think that's the big motivator. Personally, I think that's why.
As a volume play?
It's just a volume play. It's a way to take up more shelf space, to have another SKU on the shelf, and it's also a way to have your cost per ounce to the consumer be down, so they think they're getting a better value, and therefore you're moving more volume. So it's those two different.
And they saw it worked. The
Yeah,
craft
exactly.
people who walked the plank first, Oscar Blues, Founders, already showed that it's viable. In Founders' case, they showed that it can lead the pack with those kind of things. So, yeah, it was really no skin off of, say, New Belgium's nose to come out and do, was it Dayblazer, and, have that work out. Or even looking at Kona starting to package in cans. The path is set already, so everybody just kind of followed nicely behind.
So does this culminate with craft breweries putting out 30 racks?
Hopefully.
Where does it go? What is
yeah.
what's-
I mean, the cubes, right? Those big
Bricks.
I think absolutely. I remember
I think
Lagunitas
so-
joking about doing that right when they started canning.
Isn't that a race to the bottom?
I don't know. I mean, is that a? I don't know. Is it? Does that mean that beer that people want to just crush your own every once in a while are bottom feeding beers? I don't necessarily think that. What do you think? Do you think? I mean,
you're talking to the guy that's putting out single serve 375 milliliter bottles of mixed culture beer, for anywhere from $7 to $12 on the shelf.
So when are you guys going to start canning?
Right,
That's
exactly.
the
So
question.
as soon as I possibly can, because I got to catch up.
Right.
I don't know. My opinion is weird in that sense, right? So I have a very different perspective on things. We're not canning. We're not doing high velocity beer like that. We're doing low velocity, high margin beer. So we have a very different perspective on like what that looks like. So for me, I'm just looking at this from the outside being like, okay, like that's cool. You guys can go do that, but I'm going to keep doing what we're doing over here for a little while and just see how that pans out. And yeah, it may not be the coolest format these days to be doing, but we seem to be doing just fine.
It's a very different thing. Like has been said, it's a volume thing. And part of it too, is it gets you into potentially even different stores than you would have been otherwise. Like it's a big play in chain stores.
Well, I think that's what Nick is saying, is that a race to the bottom. I mean,
what does the bottom mean there, though? I mean,
ending up the same as a
I
30
think
rack of
it's
Coors
hilarious
Light.
that you guys think the bottom means a huge audience. That's rock bottom. Oh no, everybody likes us.
And I'm not saying
this is really taking off.
Sure, that's totally valid. I'm not saying that's necessarily bad, but I'm saying it's maybe the bottom for like how much revenue you can make per ounce.
So
I
you
guess
mean
race to that
basically
bottom.
the bottom of like price per case.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
No, and that makes sense, and that's
There's nothing wrong with that. It's just a different model.
Yeah,
right?
and
So-
that's what I was asking. It's like because I mean probably and that is one of the big things about it is like you've seen a lot of the breweries that have gone that route, like their price per case has gone down, but it's a volume play. They're selling a lot more beer in those package sizes.
So at what point can we not compete in that, or at what point can that model not compete with the really big guys being able to do that same model, right?
I tend to think that is where that could potentially bite them in the foot, because I mean, what a lot of people have been postulating about is that some of the bigger guys are trying to make it an issue of trying to make value a bigger play here. And once value becomes a bigger play, and I'm not saying that I'm against multi-packs. I'm not. But I think I can see what you're saying is if you start making things about value, price. If you're now looking at 15 packs and you're kind of going for dollars and cents and stuff like that, you could, I don't know, it'd be interesting. You could also maybe make yourself a value brand, perhaps.
In the same format.
Yeah.
It'd be cool to see like people going more for the local cube of, whatever that beer is. If they're going for,
local
the local cube.
30-pack is just such a funny.
Isn't that is that where we're at though? I mean, like that's kind of where we're at, right? Where it's like you're going to be buying that beer because it's got a fairly similar price point as that cube of beer, right? That's why people are buying all day, is because it's approximately the same price, or it has some value that approximates big beer. But yeah, I mean, maybe we'll be at the point where you're buying the cube of beer that's $2 more because it's local instead of buying the mass-produced whatever.
I also think that there's a practicality and a kind of just an operational side to this as well, because I think there are a lot of breweries who have expanded quite a bit and have a lot of capacity and have the ability to make a whole lot of beer now, and they can put them in cans, and they just have the ability to do this, where before they did not have the ability to do it. They could not kind of fulfill demand, and now not only can they fulfill demand for their 6-packs, 4-packs, and draft, now they still can create a whole new beer. You were saying Cross of Gold from Rev and Sun Blazer, Sun Crusher,
Day Blazer,
whatever.
Sun Crusher's another Rev beer.
Yeah, that's true.
Whatever, all these beers.
So, I mean, those are new beers just for these kind of just.
So
they're going after the crush your own market. I mean, let's be real. No, they really are, though.
Well, what I think is interesting, which I think the article that you're referring to brought up, is craft breweries are starting to act like big breweries traditionally, where they're putting their beer in as many different SKUs, can, bottle, mixed packs, 12 packs, 15 packs, whatever, because they can take up more shelf space at the off-premise retail level. And I don't think that's always necessarily true. but I think that that's not, if that's an inherent bonus, why would you not go that route? I mean, you can look at any national brand, and if you go into any like bigger chain craft beer store, that is what you will see. You will see they are trying to put as much variety out as far as like their packaging that they just want to take up that real estate. And I think that it's not, you can't, that just seems like that's the way to go. The good news is for people who are buying that beer, you are getting beer for a lot cheaper. It's cheaper to get a 12-pack than a 6-pack, so that's awesome. Why would you not buy that? So
what do you think,
seems to be working out.
Jason, about the whole, now that it's been clarified, the whole race to the bottom, not argument, but statement?
Well, I do think it's interesting because we've had this discussion for a number of years now about when there's going to be some sort of price war, some sort of price manipulation. And I think we're seeing it, but not in the way that we may have expected. And seeing these volume plays, seeing unit pricing kind of shrink on each of these craft offerings, I think we're starting to see how that's going to take shape. And you already see it. You talk about chain stores. In the club stores, you're already seeing $1 a bottle, $1 a can on craft brands. And that's something I don't think I would have guessed I would see, especially not in a Costco about like 5 years ago. I think the legitimate fear in all of this is that one day the battleship is going to turn. Eventually that ABI and Miller Coors and Heineken and Constellation brands are going to see all of this, use the powers inherent to them, and kind of undercut everybody else. And, I mean, they have the volume and they have the brands to do that right now. If Kraft is going to be steering into that lane and playing that game, I mean, they can complain about it all they want when that inevitably happens, but they're getting into a fight that I don't think they can handle.
Yeah, and that's kind of what, if, let's say we're two or 3 years ago, if we said what would like BMC want the most from kind of Kraft in terms of their positioning, what they're trying to do, I think it would be a pretty, I wouldn't be surprised if someone said, kind of make it a value option, try to put value into it, because that is their strength, is value.
Yeah, but one of the things, and as I listen, like as we have this conversation, one of the things that I think is worth thinking about is like people talk about craft as like a one thing, and it's very much not. Like, Nick, how big are you guys?
We're gonna do like 1,200 barrels this year. 1,200
barrels. What is the smallest brewery that's doing 15 packs or 18 packs? I mean, it might be Rev. What's Rev doing right now? 80,000, 90,000 barrels, maybe?
Yeah. It's a different league.
They're a top 50, but yeah, I mean, they could be.
This is why I've been saying craft is dead. Like, that term doesn't make sense anymore. It just doesn't apply.
The BA terminology doesn't even go with, look how the federal government classifies beer tiers. Yeah. It pays no attention to that whatsoever. It doesn't acknowledge the fact that there's a middle tier between the smallest of the small and macro. It could take a page from that and at least, carve out that section where you have these brewers with more means than, say, the 700 or 7,500 barrel brewery, but still far smaller than macro, and say, all right, they have a decided advantage in the marketplace. They are taxed differently. We should recognize them as something else.
Yeah.
But that's just kind of my point there is like when it's like, is this going to be bad for the craft space? I think for a lot of, when you look at like the Boston beers and the Sierra Nevadas and the New Belgiums, like the situation they're in right now, they're having a lot of trouble trying to like play between the territory of like nationwide macro brands and small, nimble craft brands that are sort of eating up the local market spaces all over the country. So are they like going into a territory where they're not going to be able to win and doing volume plays and discount plays? Maybe, but I think part of it is they're like, what can we do? We can't exactly like with our batch size and the way that we make beer, we can't compete with somebody that's making 1,200 barrels a year. Like we can't do variety and innovation the way that they do it. We're just too big for that. So it's a different level. So.
I mean, they can do those things, right? Like these breweries all can have pilot breweries. They can do 1,200 barrels of niche boutique product, but they can't take it nationwide. Right?
Exactly.
So it's like they're able to do this, but it's a format and a concept that doesn't translate to the volume that they're talking about, or that they effectively do.
And to some extent, I think they do some of those things, and they put some.
Yeah,
like,
Ballast Point has a pilot brewery that's probably much bigger than 12.
Whitmer Brothers out here just opened a pilot brewery, and it's one of the best ideas they've had in a couple of years now. It's actually very effective.
And New Belgium has like gorgeous pilot breweries in at least, I guess I haven't been to the location out in North Carolina, but in
Fort Collins.
In Fort Collins. It's
I'm
amazing.
like, that's the most envious. I'm so envious of
It's
that. That's
beautiful.
their pilot system, and I look at it and I'm like, oh man, I would give everything.
It's like
for
a
that.
10 million 10 barrel system,
It's
$10 million
beautiful.
10 barrel system. But the thing is, and I think we're making a similar point, is like they can do innovation on that scale, but with how big they are, it doesn't really impact their bottom line.
Right.
Like they're big enough and they need to do business on a scale where they need to figure something out. And you can make 10 barrel batches and sell them, but it doesn't impact your bottom line there. You can't do like small scale innovation 100,000 barrels at a time, or 50,000 barrels, or 10,000 barrels even.
But you can do it with fooders, which is what I think they're trying to do now. Maybe is have that lead the way.
So let me ask let me jump in here and ask a quick question. Just because we have Half Acre here, what's your production up to for 2017, and what are you projecting for 2018?
I think we're going to do about 45,000 barrels in 2017, and I'm not sure for 2018, probably.
All right, so 45,000 barrels still puts you like basically a step away from what's Fisher Cup 8 territory. Talking about like 50, 60,000 barrels, the point where most brewers start thinking about recapitalization or bringing in partners or doing something of, something drastic to bring themselves to the next step. If your brewery is about to enter that kind of territory, and this is the discussion we're having about people in that middle, how is Half Acre going to handle that?
We're kind of taking the exact opposite approach. So, I mean, I'm just a sales manager. I'm not the owner of the company. So I feel like kind of qualified to talk about this, but, we are really trying to diversify the amount of beer we put out and the kind of beer we put out. And the new things we've been putting out this past year in 2017 have been moving our cans our bombers into cans. So just the volume switch from sending out like 200 cases of bombers versus 800 cases of cans.
Yeah.
It makes a huge impact on us, and it's beer that is more expensive. So we're going to volume route to some extent, I guess, on like the overall level, but we're actually putting out more expensive beer.
The other
Which seems like not the right thing to do, but I think that
I'll talk to you because I have some.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to go after you, Mr. Fahey.
Well, the other question, the other question I was going to say is, how wide is your distro? Like how far and wide is Half Acre distributed?
That's the thing.
And
right?
four
that is the
states.
point.
Exactly.
That is
we're
the
in
point.
4 states.
So that's the thing is like you guys are like ramping up. You guys are producing more beer. You're in kind of that middle ground, but you're still in a relatively small space. That I think that has the effect of like
Hop Valley was in 4 states.
I'm just saying. I feel like Half Acre to me still feels. I don't know. I mean,
Well, I think
you guys make the local.
I mean, you're in states with a far denser population than the ones that Hop Valley had, but
But
If
Well,
Yeah.
our I think that our biggest motivator is not volume growth, but it's creativity and evolving as a brewery and evolving as a company, and putting out beer that we really believe in, and putting out a variety of stuff that financially it's like, well, if we did this beer in a 12-pack, we could probably sell 300% more, but we'd rather put out something new and interesting and get a wild barrel program up and running, and get a bourbon barrel aged darker beer program up and running. We're not all that deep in 3 of the 4 states that we sell beer into. So
I mean,
our
you're-
biggest way to grow is to create more unique and interesting things.
And you guys just opened up all of Illinois this year?
Last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I just wanted to, and maybe for Jason and for other people out there who may not know, it is interesting because you guys have been kind of contrarians. I was talking with a guy who is a friend of mine, and he he follows a lot of this stuff from the financial side. He's in the financial world, and he's been following what Half Acre's been doing, and he was telling me that more and more he thinks that maybe you guys have been taking the right tact. I remember when you guys expanded, because you guys, I mean, the Balmoral, how old is the Balmoral facility? A couple years old?
The building's over 100 years old.
Oh, come on.
But we've been brewing beer there for just over, I think, 3 years.
Just
3
over
years.
100 years.
So you guys were expanding when
over.
everybody else was expanding, just like gangbusters during the growth, like this growth boom.
Yeah, and
when
we were
people were
probably a year too late. Not a year too late, but like we should have had that place up and running and had that additional volume like a year in advance.
Like, what did
but
you
my
grow?
point is, I'm sorry. My point is that when you guys expanded, everyone was, and how big is your system now?
It's a 30
30
barrel
barrel.
brew house.
And people were like, what is going on? Why are they expanding so small? This is such a bad move. Everyone else is just blowing up and adding so much and adding these tank farms and everything. And you guys were putting in a relatively meager expansion. And I think now it looks like you guys are doing more controlled growth, and other people are kind of, in positions where they've got maybe more debt or more whatever, and they have to make decisions based on that, where, that was one thing that this person really seemed to be honing in on, where it looked like you guys maybe had a little bit of foresight. Maybe you guys were just lucky. Who knows?
It was all my idea.
Yeah. The other thing is that he noticed is that you guys, the way you guys have approached seasonals and turnover has been brilliant. And he and I were kind of talking about this quite a bit, where everybody else is just putting out something different all the time. And he's from the Boston area and was talking about how some breweries out there, it's just always something new, 3 new beers every new week. It doesn't really matter. Just go, 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 go. You're not really establishing anything. You're not honing in on anything, where you guys have been almost taking you've been taking beers and almost making them seasonal, where it's, you're kind of doing that scarcity thing. I don't like to use that word, but like Vallejo is not a year round where people get bored of it. It's a half year, and then the other half of the year it becomes, Heyoka.
Gone away.
I mean,
How dare you?
Sorry.
How dare
Dude, you're
you.
like 3
All right.
names ago.
It's WLPN LP Chicago. I'm getting yelled at again. 105.5 FM, Chicago. So, but so you kind of rotate half a year. So it's kind of still special when it comes out. It's somewhat fleeting. You have to kind of enjoy it while you can. You don't have to necessarily race out to get it the day it's open or the day it drops. And you guys have been, I've noticed, adding that. Now you're doing that with a double IPA as well as an IPA.
Right.
And you're doing it with a few other things too. It is a very different approach to what a lot of other breweries are doing, and I don't know. I think it just, at least for us, at least for me, being in that vortex for the past 7 years, it feels natural to this is going to sound so lame and corporate, but it's way more fun to be innovative and creative than it is to like just sell beer because you have like, oh darn, I got
all these
Bills
huge
to pay.
fermenters, and I
Oh,
got all
yeah.
these bills to pay, and I got all these investors breathing down my neck. Like, when is our return on investment coming in? And we're in a nice position where we can do things on our own terms, slow, calculated, steady growth. We're not trying to take over the world. That is something that my boss literally said to me the day I started at the brewery. We're not trying to take over the world. And I took that to heart. I figured we were going to blow it up and start distributing all over the place. But, we had physical constraints because we outgrew our brewery in our physical space like a year, or I should say like 7 years before we thought we would. So then we had to figure out where we were going to make more beer. So, we're in a nice, I don't want to say nice, we're in a unique position at the moment. We're trying to put out as much beer as we possibly can that's different. And we also are, like, another way we were able to grow is we're about to open up our second taproom location and serve our beer directly to our consumers and directly to our fans, and create an experience for them. We talked about Big North. That's not a money-making endeavor. That's a way to create an experience for people who want to connect with us. And a lot of time and thought goes into something that makes almost no money at the end of the day. So I think it's way more fun to be creative and flexible in that regard than it is to just put your beer out in a bunch of different formats so you can make your investors happy.
I think it's
And
about
I think you guys are onto something, but I would warn that creativity, in and of itself, especially with it, we've been seeing examples of it within the last 2-3 years or so, is not always going to bail you out. I look at Stone. Stone, unquestionably, for a brewery that size and of that age, still has this great creative program. Still needed $100 million in private equity. Wicked Weed, I don't think anybody would have, prior to this year, have said that Wicked Weed lacked for creativity or creative approaches to the business. I wish they had been looking more closely at the guthy portion of that business, but in the end, I think Wicked Weed's creativity kind of led to some of the situations that led them to ABI. It's like you said, though, it's a melange of things. Having another tap room, for example, brilliant idea. Talked to the folks at Terrapin a couple of weeks ago, and they said if Georgia law was different even 5 years ago, that would have been the approach they took, and they probably wouldn't be with Miller Coors right now. You have all these great options. Then, not for anything, you have this great, densely populated, beer-loving city around you, and it's a great base to start from.
So, Jason,
I think
wouldn't you say that?
It's interesting watching you guys in Rev kind of build off of that base.
Wouldn't you say that a creative approach that Terrapin could have taken is the one that Creature Comforts actually did, which is to change the laws? Like, that seems to me to be like, that's being creative, right? Is like figuring out how to change the model. Like, Terrapin's not being innovative by just sitting around not doing anything and being like, ho hum, I wish these would be different. Like,
what kind of numbers do you think they had in Atlanta? Who do you think they had on their side? What do you think their guild looked like?
In what way do you mean? Like, you think they had no allies
in what
or
way
something?
Do I mean? I mean, how many breweries do you think they had to work with them? How large did you think their guild was?
Sure, that's valid.
What kind
but
of presence do you see from ABI and Miller Coors in that state? How many plants do each of them operate, and what do their distributors look like?
Absolutely, but the laws are changed now, right? Like, literally tomorrow it goes into effect that they can sell direct to customers in Georgia. And
That's correct.
Who affected that?
A number of breweries that have come in within the last 3 years.
How many? Like, realistically, like, how many breweries actually have opened since the days of Terrapin? Like, there's no reason that those guys couldn't have done that themselves. They got to the size where they had the power. They had some clout. They had some power. I think they could have done that if they wanted to.
It's not like when Widmer Brothers and McMenamins and Portland Brewing all opened here around the same time and could go down to Salem and argue their point. Terrapin had, I don't know, maybe Sweetwater there with them, and Sweetwater already went to the till. They're already taking from the same private equity firm that Pabst did. They kind of forced themselves into a nice little corner there too. And they took the other option available to them, which was to go out to other states. Terrapin, because there were no options available at home, went out to other states. So we're talking about 2 breweries with any kind of clout down there in Georgia.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Well,
they
but
didn't have the kind of number. I mean, we could go to if you give me a second, we could go to the Brewers Association page now, and we could go back and see 4 years ago how many breweries were in Georgia that would have been, right up on Terrapin's back.
I would,
4 years ago, which they would still be partially owned by Miller Coors.
I think more interesting than I think it could probably be that this is all conjecture. We'll never know what Terrapin could have done, or if they had 4 years ago decided we could either try to open up another tap room, or in 4 years we could say we should have. Who knows? But it's I do think that creativity is it's like you use Stone. Stone is certainly creative, but they also have like a throw spaghetti at the wall kind of thing, where I do think that I would say the creativity from Half Acre in a weird way reminds me more of almost like a New Glarus style, where they're almost building a culture. I think you guys have very much a culture that you're trying to build. Now New Glarus is very broad, but that thing is like Wisconsin as hell. People identify with it and love it, and then they are creative within that and kind of within that model. And I find that's how you guys are being creative in how you guys are bringing things to market. You're kind of going counter to a lot of things, but not to be spiteful of them. You're just kind of going to the beat of your own drum in a weird way, which is kind of, again, how I see the New. I know New Glarus is like, you guys aren't like the spotted cow of Chicago, but
isn't that what creativity means though? Is like doing something that is innovative and new. Like
I totally agree.
I don't want to.
Is selling beer in Wisconsin innovative and new?
Is that the point anyone's making?
No. My point is that how they are is how they're doing it. I mean, it's how they're playing the game. New Glarus is playing the game like nobody else in the country is. And I think it's how Half Acre's playing the game very differently from, at least from an outsider's perspective. Well, an insider-outsider's perspective.
An insider's roundtable.
It's like insider's roundtable, outsider's
stay
perspective.
tuned for the Outsiders podcast.
They just seem to be doing it a little bit. It's hard for me to explain. I don't know. Do you get this feeling at all, Pat, or is it just me?
With New Glarus?
Well, I'm saying I think New Glarus to me is a little, or either that or Half Acre.
Well, so what I was going to say before, and I wanted to start this by saying, like, I'm not saying that this is what Stone is doing, because I know that comparison was existing, but I think that a distinction has to be drawn between being creative in your approach and being haphazard in your approach, where you can be creative in a calculated way where you're making decisions for a reason, or you're doing things once again not to do like the I'm not going to go out and say that Stone is just throwing spaghetti at the wall, but
I would certainly not cite them as one of the most innovative breweries I've seen in the past 10 years. Like, I don't think anything they're doing is innovative.
That's going back a ways.
I'd say maybe. But I think that's my whole drinking career, and nothing about them has really changed that much. Like, literally, the first beer I ever had in my entire life was Arrogant Bastard. So that is, like, I can thank Stone for getting me into craft beer, but not much has changed since that first beer I had. What is innovative about Stone in that sense? Like, I'm curious to know.
Mm-hmm.
The all-day thing was interesting. It's a cool approach. Certainly probably changed some people's mindsets about, like, not all day. I'm sorry, the drink by? What was it? Drink by. Thank you.
Drink by.
And I would say the drink
Enjoy
by.
Enjoy. That's what it was. Yeah, sorry.
What is it? We're totally lost.
But even that was keeping in with what they'd always been, which is aggressive coding, 90 days, just bringing what they're already doing to a forefront. I think it was a continuation of what they were doing.
Sure.
But
Really, what has changed? What's been creative about that? Like, I've seen Half Acre in that same time frame, and I feel like I've seen this development that's happened. Not to total
Yeah,
friends
right.
too much here,
Right,
but
right,
like,
right.
no, I really have seen development. Like they've stayed contemporary in some sense, you know. And the same thing with Jester King. Like they've stayed contemporary, and the same thing with a lot of these cool breweries that are like on the forefront of people's minds. The reason that they're cited as creative is because they're just staying contemporarily, just innovative in a sense, you know. Like it's always something new that's coming around, I guess, you know, that makes them on the forefront of people's minds.
And
Well, isn't that kind of full circle? Like, kind
Yeah,
of what becomes
exactly.
hard when you get huge to do that?
No,
right?
but I think about it, and I was just about to put a button on all this with, like, you know, there's nothing that's that creative about putting your beer in 12 packs and 6 packs versus, like, you know, trying something totally different and just totally putting a new beer out and just seeing how it goes and taking risks. You're not really facing that much of a risk by putting your beer out in a bigger volume, and that's how you're going to sell more beer. So I would much rather work for a company that takes the approach where we're going to try a bunch of different things to as a way to brew and sell more beer than just putting our beer out in a cheaper per ounce cost so we can sell more beer.
Well, and then going back to what Jason said, there are pitfalls, because that is kind of what Stone has done and kind of put out a lot of stuff like that. So I guess as long as you keep, you know, hitting jackpots every once in a while.
I'm not saying that anyone's got the perfect formula. There's going to be certain things
And
that
I'm,
do and
I'm
don't work.
just going to jump right in here and say that, you know, no, there's nothing particularly creative about jumping into 12s, 15s, 18s. But, I mean, until Oscar Blues or Founders did it, you know, it didn't naturally seem to occur to anybody in craft that, hey, this might be a good way to make money and keep our people employed. Also to actually fund expansion with something that's something other than a SBA loan. You know, I think for craft, certainly that was a means of thinking outside the box. That was a means of
I agree with that.
Making a business work on the next level. And it's a game that, you know, you reach one point and it certainly does have to be played because it's what's the next step? How do we continue to create growth?
Yeah, I
Not
think
only
all day in
for our
a 12-pack.
investors, but if you're New Belgium, it's for your employees. It's for your employee owners. So yes, you can sit here and say, oh, we're just going to, you know, slam the brakes on it at 60,000 and we'll be done. And we'll stay in this, you know, lovely little sliver, which, by the way, isn't all that small anymore. And it's unsustainable.
Not growing is unsustainable?
Did I say not growing is unsustainable?
Oh, no, maybe. No, I said that as a question. So what's unsustainable?
Unsustainable is getting to 60,000 barrels and saying, no, that's going to be it.
That sounds like not growing is unsustainable.
Yeah. No. Is perpetual growth then the only system? Because here's something that I kind of feel is
when you get into the economies of scale, yes, not growing is unsustainable.
I don't know. That doesn't seem to have been the case for a lot of businesses for a lot of American history. It seems like recently it's
but
kind of like.
Has it been in beer?
I mean, I don't. I think there are probably exceptions. I don't know, I guess, because there's so many that haven't been around for a long time. I think there were big guys that kind of pushed a lot of them out, and we had this big thing like Prohibition. So who knows what these true old heritage brands would have been like. I mean, for many, many years, Heineken was just not Heineken, Yuengling was just kind of slowly biding their time. Now they are, you know, growing, but they were sustainably kind of there. I think same with New Glarus. I mean, they just put in a huge expansion, but they've.
I do think that is
this
kind of.
This is like the second or third expansion I've seen from New Glarus in, you know, the past 6 years. So yes, they are growing. They're growing in a way that's different than most, but I mean, New Glarus is not an example of a brewery that has stayed static.
Sure, but maybe not like grow or die, I think.
And that's a thing that I think I've seen a lot of in the way that people talk about the beer business right now. It's like, if you're not growing, you're not doing the right thing.
if you reach a certain size, yes, you're not doing the right thing.
But what is that size? And even that, I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, I've had conversations recently with some of my friends who work for Lagunitas, and it's like, you know, why is it bad if they're like, if they get to a point where it's like, we have the number one IPA in the country, but we didn't grow 10% this year. Like, why is it not enough to just to command that segment of the market?
Well, because they're owned by Heineken and they are publicly traded, and your investors seek growth. So really, Lagunitas is a very different example.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if, Jason, what you're saying is...
Say who you are.
Oh, this is Matt Arata from the
I
Beer
see
Download.
Drop in some producer knowledge.
I was just wondering if what maybe Jason is saying is that breweries of the 40 or 50,000 barrel size is a really tight place to be in the market right now.
No, that's absolutely true. I mean, we're in Colorado, we're awash with that problem right now, right? Like, yeah, I can cite 5 to 6 to 10 breweries that are all in that size frame that are struggling like crazy to keep up or doing well. It's so all over the map. It's crazy to see, like, you know, Left Hand's down like 25% or something ridiculous like that, and then like Avery's up 20%. So it's like all these breweries are all over the map.
And that's a terrible place to be business-wise.
So what if to counter your argument of like not growing is dying, like what if you just don't get to that size?
Or what if you don't sell your beer for cheaper?
There's an entire set, and which brings us back to the point we were talking about earlier about how there are these different strata in the industry. And yes, you could be perfectly fine, or at least, you know, sustainable as a, you know, 7,500 barrel brewery, even like a 1,500 barrel brewery, and do very well for yourself and be around for decades. But once you get into that middle ground where you have the little guys from the bottom chomping at that segment of your business, and the big guys from the top just crushing you in chains and large scale, then, you know, not growing doesn't really become an option. Sure. Because then you're shrinking. And it's hard to go back.
Which kind of makes me think about where this all started is, you know, you're in some way you get to a certain size and your only growth strategy is to make less money per ounce and to sell your beer in higher volume. So which one is the better or worse one? Like you could, I don't know. I think that there's really no answer here. But it seems that there are certain breweries who, you know, that's how they're growing is they're, you know, they're selling beer in higher volume varieties, and I don't know. I feel like no matter what we do, we're just kind of spinning our wheels. Which is
so we have a Colorado guy in the room right now, right?
Yes.
And we just had this discussion about New Belgium. New Belgium's kind of taking it both ways, isn't it? It's doing the higher volume, and it has that terrific barrel program that Peter Booker started. Not there anymore, but he did develop it. Where do they fit in? Are they not a creative brewery for having done this?
Doing which one? I mean, like, do you want me to like put a blanket statement of their creativity as like a whole? I mean, like, I will always cite New Belgium as like an inspirational brewery for me.
You are the arbiter of Colorado creativity.
Yes, I will speak for all of Colorado right now and say that they are the most inspiring. I mean, like, I think that they have moved in some directions that are really interesting and really creative, and I think that they've done other things that I would personally question, and I've wondered about, you know, like the Fat Tire White thing. I am not a fan of. I think that's weird. I think it's a strange move on their part to go that direction. The Daybreaker thing is another I haven't had that beer. I don't even know if it's good. But it seems like another interesting like direction they're taking. And now they're also having these. My friend Andrew Emerton, who is like one of their higher ups in the creative aspect of like doing their specialty beer program, has come up with this concept of like doing some, you know, kind of I think they're doing. What are they doing? They're doing like a triple and a 4-pack or something like that. That's like a limited release, but it's like a barrel aged something or other. I don't know. They're doing all kinds of different things, and I'm just kind of like I'm losing track of what the identity of that brewery is in a sense, because they're going in so many different directions that I don't remember what they're all about anymore.
Yeah, I think they're trying to see maybe what gets some traction is how it comes
Spaghetti
across
at the wall.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
And I mean, when they what was it last year or earlier this year, just had a overhaul of everything that they were doing. They either modified or cut or added
and then they have like Voodoo Ranger, which is like it doesn't fit with the brand identity
I brought some
necessarily.
today, yeah.
It's just like
It's
all
the
these
new
different
brand identity.
I love them. I love them so much, and I'm rooting for them, and I want them to like continue to be one of these amazing inspirational breweries. But they're doing these things where I'm like,
yeah, but
I don't know
go,
why.
That has been, I think, a huge success for them.
But I'm waiting for them to prove me wrong. Really, I'm waiting for them to do that thing that like kills it and becomes that new thing. And all of a sudden, I'm like, they knew all along. They just knew. Of course they knew. It was New Belgium. Why would they not know? But
I think Voodoo. I mean, their numbers are up, right? I mean, they had a bunch of down years, and now they're up. So what they're doing seems to be working. So at the end of the day, to your point, Jason, is what's more important? A bunch of geeks sitting around a round table saying that they've lost their identity and where they're going, or that they're up 20% and that their employee-owned company is doing better. I guess when you get to a certain size, there's different things that matter. And anyway. I think we should take a break. We've gone way, way long. Do you have any music queued up, Mr. Errata? I knew we could get you to say something on mic, so I'm very happy about that. Thank you.
That's what this was all about.
The funny thing is he had to mime to me, I want to say something. Just say it then. Just grab the mic and say it for future reference. So you are listening to the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. We are going to take a musical break, and then we will be back with more. See ya. Welcome back to the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. I am your host, Chris Quinn, and I am joined by Jason Noddy, Eric Capron, Nick. Oh no, I forgot your last name.
Nuns.
Nick Nuns.
It's pretty easy.
Yeah. Well,
Long
not
time,
easy
first
enough.
time.
So many ends.
Yeah. and you, Pat, and also producer Matt Errata, celebrity producer Matt Errata, who couldn't muster up any interest in the chat room. The chat room is a little sparse today, guys. So thanks. Actually, thanks to all the guys who are there, but all the ones who are now listening on iTunes. You broke my heart a little bit, so thank you. Drinking a delicious atrial rubicite from Jester King. Thank you, Mr. Fahey, for bringing that.
Don't thank me.
Okay, I won't. And
rescinded.
Yeah, rescinded. I rescind that thanking. So we like to do letters here. We like to involve our listeners, and I'm always amazed by people who take the time to kind of reach out to us. It's really cool, and thank you all. So I wanted to, send or read a letter from Nate, and we have a Nate N who writes a lot of letters. This is a different Nate, and he had a question that I thought you, Mr. Nuns, might.
I like this
have
guy.
some
He has
insight.
a double N name, so it's all right. I like him.
He says, this is the, he goes, "Dear Mr. Chris and whomever else is in the room. In episode 102, there was a brief discussion about retailers selling kegs of beer out in, selling keg beer out in growlers. Crowlers, well, yeah, hold on, stop that for right now. Crowlers were also mentioned, but all the criticisms applied to growlers filled with, hold on, let me start over. Sorry.
Welcome.
In episode, welcome
to the Outsiders.
Yeah. All right.
Roundtable.
In episode 102, there was a brief discussion about retailers selling keg beer out of growlers. Crowlers were also mentioned, but all the criticisms applied to growlers filled with tubes from a tap. But were also mentioned, but all whatever. Okay. No, I'm reading what was.
Do you
written,
want me to
man.
read it for
Really
you?
rolling along.
Yeah,
I have been
read it.
drinking all day,
Read it.
and
Come
I
over
think
here,
I could
Pat.
do this.
Come on over here.
You want me to come over there and read it?
Come on over and read it.
Practice my reading voice?
Yeah, come on over.
Okay, here, give me a second.
Okay. So as we're doing that, I'll mention that you can send an email or a e-letter to insiders@craftbeertemple.com. You can also send in an actual letter. I'll tell you how in a moment. Here you go. No, you can't read it ahead of time. There you go.
Okay, you're right. Okay. So, dear Mr. Chris and whomever else is in the room. In episode 102, there was a brief discussion about retailers selling keg beer out in growlers. I think that should be an of, but that's okay. Crowlers were also mentioned, but all the criticisms applied to growlers filled with tubes from a tap. I'm interested in hearing opinions about crowlers from retailers and directly from breweries. Do you guys use crowlers?
Half Acre does not.
Keep going.
All right.
I can take over from here.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, we could use
From what I
another
have
voice.
seen, crowlers need a special filler that is designed to package the beer that way. Having left Chicago 3 years ago, I'm not sure about the popularity of crowlers there, but a recently opened brewery here in Duluth, Minnesota, decided to only do crowlers, no growlers, out of their beer hall. Thanks for the discussion as usual, Nate A. Thanks, Nate, for writing in, and we really appreciate your feedback here at the Insiders Roundtable podcast.
Killing it.
Thanks, Chris.
So Nick,
So good.
So Nick, you guys do crowlers.
We
Did you do
do.
growlers beforehand?
We kind of did. So we our history with to-go beer from our tap room is
Didn't
bizarre.
it all work? That was the sound of Pat Fahey's tooth cracking in half for all of you out there in
And then
Radio
he
Land.
shotgunned an entire can
Killing
of
it.
Jungle Boogie.
He's a crusher own at work right now.
Oh, you gotta see that,
Oh,
Mr.
man.
Naughty. Oh, you can't. Oh.
So
Not at all.
do I have to
sorry.
rein this in as the foreigner?
No. Okay. So the question is,
That's another job as your first appearance.
the question is,
Crowlers.
I think, are crowlers better than growlers?
Yes.
Why?
Well, I think he's also
Period.
asking the
Yes.
question of like, why are people still opposed to retailers versus breweries selling growlers and crowlers? So.
Is that the question? Like
Well, I think
off non-brewery retailers selling crowlers? Or
I
is
think
it
it's
about just crowlers in general?
I thought it was more crowlers versus growlers, but
I read it as that.
Yeah.
So I will answer it.
Let's
as
talk about
such.
both.
It's two things. It's crowlers versus growlers,
Mm-hmm.
and then also them as a serving vessel, even in a retail environment. So it's a little bit of both.
Cool. Yeah. So we actually have. I can comment on both of those things because we have examples of both in Colorado. So we just moved to Crowlers. We are a very, very small brewery as far as our clean beer goes. You know, like I said earlier in the show, we have two breweries. The initial one was a 3-barrel system with 3 7-barrel fermenters, real tiny. So like, you know, making little to no beer annually. Our second brewery, being bigger, is a 10-barrel system, but we have a actual maheen. We're bottling things properly. All the beer that comes out of there is well bottled and bottle conditioned, so we have no problems with DO or anything like that. We've been selling the beer to go from the clean side from the get-go, but at first it was a membership system. So you had to basically sign up as a member for our growler program to actually have a growler that we would fill. That was a nightmare to manage. Then we started bottling stuff and selling that and got rid of growlers more or less from the clean side and would fill based on availability, which still was almost nothing.
He's about to get to the point where one is better than the other. I promise.
Sorry, geez.
No, kidding.
Just trying
What's
to
up?
tell some history.
Yeah,
about
yeah,
my
yeah. No. I'm being a jerk.
Anyway, so we recently introduced crowlers, at our tap room, and I am very excited about that because I think that they are immensely better than glass growlers. The reason being, I think, more than anything, that when you move to crowlers, you put in a lot of other systems that help to package that beer better. So in moving to crowlers, we introduced CO2 purges, and we don't have to use tubes or anything goofy like that anymore. So we CO2 purge the crowler first, and then we fill it directly from the faucet, which is clean inevitably because we have a very strict cleaning regimen for our draft lines. So that being said, like everything that comes out of that crowler or anything that we put in a crowler is as good as it can be for something filled off of a faucet.
Have you guys
Right.
done any like stability or tests like over time? How long?
Yeah,
stuff
I took
lasts?
a road trip for 3 weeks and I came back and opened one and it tasted good.
That's awesome. I mean, but
No,
seriously, though.
we haven't done anything technical as far as that goes, but like from my personal experience, they stand up a lot better than a glass growler. Growler.
Yeah,
what?
yeah.
So many grass growlers out there.
Now, what about a retailer using a crowler?
So WeldWorks up in Greeley, Colorado, has been doing a little bit of selling their crowlers to retail accounts, which is really interesting.
That's different. I think that's very interesting. What about though a retail crowler filling station? Jesus.
We're all struggling.
Yeah, a crowler filling station.
I don't like it.
I'm in-
personally.
Why not?
I don't trust them.
So much room for error
Yeah,
there.
exactly.
I'm pretty wary of retailer-filled growlers or crowlers because
Yeah, me too.
I mean, it's
Hear that, Zach?
Yeah, it's a lot of room for error, a lot of potential issues, and in a lot of cases, a lot of people that aren't trained or don't know what they're doing in filling them. So you've got beer that's not going to be stable for very long in a package that, especially with a crowler, a consumer looks at that and they're like, well, it's like a big can.
And it is, right?
Well,
Single
But
serve.
it's not at all.
but it's not. It wasn't filled
Yeah.
like in the way it was like. No liquid nitrogen went into that to purge it as happens.
Yeah.
Like it's not.
Sure, it's
It
certainly
looks the
not.
same, but
It's certainly not, but it's also, I mean, I do think that there are, in a way, more similarities to a can of beer and a crowler than there are to a bottle of beer and a growler. Not that that means much, but, I mean, one is literally a tube versus a counter pressure filler. I mean, cans aren't being counter pressure filled. There might be, liquid nitrogen in there to kind of blast everything out, but he's doing a CO2 purge, which is pretty
right. But
darn
that's
good.
that's like you could theoretically do that with a growler.
Just say growler.
Yeah.
You could theoretically do that with a growler, right?
Yeah.
But nobody ever did that until crowlers were introduced, and all of a sudden
Some
everybody
people
is
did
CO2
it. They had
purging.
those
Well-
homebrew guns.
Yeah,
that they
okay,
were-
that's
yeah,
a blanket
yeah,
statement.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
you're right.
Well, and there are really expensive growler fillers that are meant that do kind of like the
Counter
whole act
pressure
of,
kinda,
of
yeah.
purging and then counter pressure filling.
They're all over the place out here,
And-
too.
and-
I know Pacific Northwest, the guns and the counter fillers are kind of like everywhere.
Even still, though, those are not. Those are like stable to 3 days, maybe a week, maybe.
Yeah.
So, like, it's so, and I would say a similar thing about crowler. Like, I personally have not done tests. I've not seen people do tests on them necessarily to be like, we used crowlers and the beer was the same as it was from the keg for 2 weeks. But in general, I think that there's a fair amount of opportunity for operator error in both crowlers and growlers. And so especially when you're dealing with retail folks where they haven't necessarily, I feel like breweries are more likely to be like, this is our beer going out into the world in this packaging type. We want to make sure that we do everything we can to make sure that it stays good for as long as possible, versus maybe somebody at a retail place being like, this is a popular format for putting beer in, and so we're going to try and capitalize on that. And their people don't necessarily know the ins and outs of what needs to be done to make sure that that beer is filled in a way where it's as stable for as long as possible. So it always worries me when I see growler and crowler at retail. And that's before you even dig into the fact that, like, you can have issues with exploding growlers and, like, all that sort of thing. So
With counter pressure. Yeah. Or just in general.
in general,
Yeah. Now, Jason, in your experience, you said that sort of the guns and the counter pressures are kind of all over the place in Portland, and as we know, you come from the future. So have you found that the stability is a week? Do you get a week out of a growler?
If I go to Deschutes for a growler, I could get a week easy.
And why is
but
that? What's their setup?
Mileage definitely varies. The guys aren't wrong. It depends on where you go to. There are places where I know I better, get it done by the weekend, or otherwise it's going to be terrible. But yeah, there are a lot of the breweries and the tap rooms where you could tell that they've had experience with this, know what they're doing, have the right equipment, have people trained on it. You can get a good amount of stability on it. It's nowhere near a crowler. but it is. It'll get you through for a while.
So why do you? Okay, all right, interesting. So you guys, it seems pretty unanimous that crowlers hold up better when operated in a relatively proper way.
Can I make one more statement about why crowlers are better?
Sure.
Thank you.
I have one counterpoint.
You cannot reseal them.
That's my counterpoint, is that if you're going to drink a growler of beer, you can reseal it. So if you're doing a 64 ounce, which I think, are crowlers only 32 ounce?
32.
Okay. So if you're doing we do growlers at Half Acre. We don't have a canning machine besides for 16 ounce cans. One of the benefits is if you, let's say you split half a growler with, your partner, and then the next night you wanted to have another pint of beer, you could do it with relative ease. So it should hold up after you open it once, but like multiple times, it's not great. So
hold up for how long?
I'm saying
that's
like
night,
a day,
right?
a day or two max.
No
not a ton.
way.
No, I'm saying like if
2 days, you can open a growler, pour it,
You can get
seal
two.
it. 2 days.
I did it this week. I
it-
was
it-
drinking
it-
not rosé.
It depends on
Mr.
your.
Fahey.
It depends on your tolerance for. I mean, at the end of the day, it depends on like what you consider like is the beer still good. It's like if you fill a growler and then you open it and you put it back in the fridge for a couple days, it
will lose some
probably
carbonation.
the biggest thing is going to be carbonation.
Yeah, for
loss.
sure. I'm not disputing that.
But
at all.
is it still going to be in a place where you could drink it and be like, this is a reasonable approximation of this beer? Yeah, probably. But
do you?
Right.
But the,
Yeah,
okay,
as a
exactly.
brewer, do you want that?
well, can I throw out
As
one?
a consumer, do you want that?
Can I throw out
Like-
one caveat? that
Well,
none of you guys in this
the
room are
brewer and
thinking
the
of.
consumer don't ordinarily see eye to eye on this issue anyway, which is why
Can
you
I-
have
fair
growlers
enough.
at retail. And it's
I want
all-
this caveat.
I just want to throw out one caveat that no one in this room is thinking of. Let's say you're a sales rep. Let's say that you have a tap-only beer that you are trying to sell to 6 different bars throughout the city because you have 6 kegs of it to sell. You could do 6 growler folds of beer, and that's totally fine. Or you could do a growler or two. And you might have to take that growler, sample it out at the first bar, go to the second bar, go to the third bar, and it's a law of diminishing results. However, it's way more convenient as a sales rep to take that beer to multiple locations in a
very
growler than in a can. That is 0.01% of the people listening to this. So that's
Totally
I'm really
irrelevant
sorry.
point.
I know exactly. But
My big thing is like when you look at
Literally used a soda jug to do that. Too.
the biggest issue with growlers from my perspective is
they're infinitely reusable.
that's not it. But
Oh, I'm sorry.
That would have been Jason's point.
but it is the consumer lack of knowledge behind the vessel. So it is the idea that you look at because there are consumers that think like we in this room do, that are like, they're like, beer is the most important thing in my life and I spend a lot of my time on it. But for most people, they're like, beer is beer and I like beer, but I don't. So the thing is you look at a growler and you go, cool, it's a resealable container of draft beer. I can take that and I can pour a pint out and throw it back in my fridge like I would with a gallon of milk. And then I can dig back into it. And so the thing is, and the thing that you can do if you're a sales rep is you can say, look, I already had to do a pour from this. It's not going to be quite as carbonated as it was before, but it's still.
Tell them my secrets.
Yeah, okay.
No, I'm just kidding.
But the thing is you can explain that because and the person who's buying the beer has some knowledge. Like you can explain those things. Whereas with a consumer at home, they might drink it like they might have a pint and then put it back in the fridge for a week and then have another pint and be like, oh, this isn't very good. And might not even think about it as a fact of the packaging. Might be like, maybe this beer isn't that good.
Well, that's why, you could pull the growler I brought out of the cooler. I think it says drink fresh within a certain amount of time. Mm-hmm. And that's a big thing that we push for. I think most breweries push for is like, drink this fresh, and when you open it, consume all of it. But is it? I mean,
why make it resealable? Why not just have it be a can? Anyway, I think we are almost out of time.
just put everything in cans.
Put
Everything in
everything
15
cans.
packs.
Yeah. I think this show is basically a 15 pack at this point. It's definitely
What does
in
that
the can.
mean?
It's in the can. the show is in the can.
Nice.
It's an allegory.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I wanted to
Allegory.
thank my guests, Mr. Jason Noddy, Mr. Eric Capron, Mr. Nick Nuns, and Mr. Pat Fahey, and producer Mr. Matt Arata, for coming on. It's been a fun show. I want to thank all of you guys out there for listening. I didn't quite get it out there before, but if you did want to send in a letter, it's been a while since we got a letter. The last letter we read that was actually sent in from the island of Hawaii. I think Kauai, maybe, or another island, one of those ones out there. But it's 32. If you want to send it in, you can write on the envelope 3219 South Morgan Street, Chicago, Illinois 60608. We are in the co-prosperity sphere, but if you send it to the Beer Temple or to Chris Quinn or to King Kona or Ed Marsuski or anybody like that, it will get to me. That's 3219 South Morgan Street in Chicago. I want to give people time for a last word. We're just going to go around the horn here. Mr. Noddy, anything that you want to say in closing?
Once again, thank you for having me on. Best of luck with the bar. Looks fantastic. I look forward to having a Sierra Nevada there at some point.
Thank you.
Thank you for King Kona and all his efforts. And
You don't have to thank me for that. He's his
thank
own
you
man.
to Market Watch, by the way. This is my last day there. It's been a great 3 years. They've been really supportive of everything. They're the reason I'm on your show. So thanks to them. And yeah, look for me at All About Beer and at Nottingham on Twitter.
All right.
Well,
Eric?
I cannot view Nottingham on Twitter because he blocked me like 2 or 3 years ago. But I want to
boy.
say, if you want to,
Is that true?
That's very true.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great.
So I just want to say thanks for listening. Thanks to Chris. Congrats on the Beer Temple. And yeah, I hope I can share a pint with you guys at the new Half Acre Tap Room next weekend.
Sweet. Is that official?
Yeah, it's official.
It's awesome. Nick?
If you find yourself in Denver, come. Don't come, but I've heard that True Brewing place is pretty cool. So,
Ooh, well done. Like a pro, Mr. Fahey. Crusherone. Master Crusherone.
Life is good. Drink beers that
Crush
you like.
beers
Crush
that you-
beers that you like.
oh, I'm getting a tattoo of that one.
Life is good. Crush beers that you like.
And that's the bottom line.
Anything for you, Mr. Arata? Anything? Any final word you want to say to end the show? Oh, yeah.
Sure. Lumpen Radio membership drive is underway right now on lumpenradio.com. We need your help. Become a member of Lumpen Radio with a one-time or repeating gift that supports the great programming right here on Lumpen Radio. Special rewards are available at every tier. So there are tiers and there are rewards. Visit lumpenradio.com for all the details, and thank you for your support. Thank you, Chris.
Go have a beer.
Remember this is what we wanted. Remember this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again, 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 again. Remember this is what we wanted. Remember this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again, 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 again. Remember this is what we wanted. Remember this is what